first thing Monday morning and I have to talk about something that's kind of important in our hobby, and haven't even shaved yet. It's Monday. I don't have to deal with this stuff on a Monday, but we're going to talk about everything that's going on with the Retroid Pocket Mini display issues and a lot more. This is going to be a consumer advocacy rant type video. If that's not what you're looking for, then you might want to turn it off, and I'm warning you now. I don't work on weekends, so while all of this was going on, I was enjoying time with my family and playing games, all that sort of thing. And I always planned on covering this news on Monday, as soon as I got back, which is now. But so much has happened, so much is going on that we're going to have to go from the beginning, and I'll walk through everything that's going on with the Retroid issues and then my thoughts on it. So this is now my fourth video on this topic. I've covered it when it happened, way back when, covered it a few weeks ago, covered it a week ago, and now we're going to do it again because there's been so many different updates, and we'll go through so you have a good idea of what's going on. And this video is not going to be offering workarounds. If you are here for shader workarounds, not what it's going to be about. This video isn't going to be about defending Retroid either. I've always been on the consumer side of everything, and that's what this is going to be based on, consumer advocacy for the consumer. And there is no I don't play both sides. There is no point in playing both sides because then every side loses. And I'd rather just be on the consumer side because I make videos for you guys. I don't make videos for brands. I might be getting sick. My voice sounds off. This is just a Monday video. It's going to have the Monday energy as well. So as much as this video might come across as shots against Retroid, that is not the way that I'm personally phrasing it. This is more to get the consumers affected by this issue, the assistance they need, the resolution they need, and also talk about what got us to this place with what Retroid did, because I feel like a lot of it was missed in the way that it's been presented throughout Reddit, throughout social media, all of that. So there are some things that they did specifically that caused them to come to this place, and we need to talk about it. Okay, so this issue was first discovered a few weeks after release, way back in October. The basic idea is that something in the display pipeline is causing interpolation, which is causing the problem to show up on the entire display. The problem being, from my understanding, speaking to developers like Gamma and Trix and others, is it's a 960p screen, squishing the height to 928p and then back to 960p. That is the easiest way to explain it. That's not exactly what's going on, but it's the easiest way to explain it so that you and I can understand as just normal people. Now, nothing about this is a shader issue. It is the actual screen being stretched, and this applies to every single thing. It is not just shaders. Shaders highlight the problem. Shaders are the easiest way to see the problem. It is not the problem. So let me repeat that once more. This is not a shader issue. Shaders highlight the problem. Shaders are not the problem. The actual cause or issue actually really doesn't matter. The end result is you are not getting a clean 1280 by 960p image, as expected, and that messes up a lot of games. Now, people shared this with Retroid a few weeks after the Mini released. This is way back in October. They acknowledged the issue and said they would be doing a longer return policy if they couldn't find a fix. That post has since been deleted by Retroid. I'm going to repeat this once more. The initial post that was an official statement from the company that said they would be offering returns if a fix could not be found was deleted by Retroid. Despite everything else that I'm going to talk about today, this is the one thing I want an answer on, is why are official statements being deleted? And you could be like, that's not an official statement, it's just a Discord post. All of today is on Discord. None of it is taking place elsewhere. Any information that we have comes from Discord. So no, this is an official statement. It is on their Discord. We should be getting an answer as to why they deleted official statements. Because if we don't, this is just going to happen again. And that just means we're going to have to keep taking screenshots every single time it happens. That's not cool. Now, this was all posted 4 months ago. And the issue is something that Gamma of Gamma OS fame found in a day and told that would not be fixed. So we can give them the benefit of the doubt that it took 4 months to get the same answer that Gamma found in a day. I'm going to give them that benefit of the doubt that we are now here 4 months later because they couldn't figure it out. Which, by the way, in those 4 months, Retroid was denying return requests. So even if there's somebody out there that's like, well, why didn't you return it earlier? They weren't able to. They kept saying, wait for a fix, wait for something. And now here we are 4 months later with the actual news that there is no fix. So no, this wasn't a scenario where you could just be like, I'm going to return it back in November or December, because they weren't letting you. I actually know of one person that was able to get a refund or return on this, and they went through absolute hell to do so. It was not an easy process. It was not a normal process for anybody to go through. They went through complete hell to get that return. So that's where we're at. For everybody else, there are users who spent months and months and months trying to get an answer. I have screenshots from different users that have sent them to me of them just asking on a weekly, monthly basis, is there an update? Is there an update? To the point where the Discord was getting angry with these people for asking for updates on a hardware issue that they deserve updates on. So the community needs to do better in this scenario. When people are complaining about something that is affecting them, just because it doesn't affect you, doesn't mean it isn't an issue and doesn't mean those people don't get a resolution. Retroid's lack of action over 4 months is the cause and problem of what we're going through today. They let it boil over. They had the chance to fix this way back when by just acknowledging the issue and then saying, we will give you a refund return, putting a disclaimer on the website, all that sort of thing. But they did none of those things. Throughout the 4 months, the Mini continued being for sale. There was no disclaimer posted. It was never taken down. They let this boil over. They let it go from the plumber came and told you you have a leak. You did nothing about that leak. Suddenly your house is flooded 4 months later, and now you can't afford it because your house is flooded. You were told about the leak months ago. You chose to do nothing. You chose to delete statements, all of that sort of thing. Now it's all coming to a head. And there's nobody to blame but yourself in this scenario. So last week, after finally, I guess, getting fed up with being hounded about this problem for months, we finally found out through a random Discord post that there is no fix available. And so if you want to return it, you can send in your email to get a return or refund. Turns out that only applied to that specific user and literally nobody else. And then we had to get a statement out after that. Now, none of this was proactive. I'm pretty sure they expected this to just go away, which deleting the original statement needs credence to, because you wouldn't delete that if you were going to honor it. But now we have statement after statement after statement of problems. So basically what happened is people emailed in after seeing that Discord post that was shared by myself and other creators and all that sort of thing on Reddit, and they were getting denied refunds and returns because apparently that only applied to one single person, and Retroid is like, we are not offering returns or refunds for anybody. I don't know what you guys are talking about. That was never the plan. And everybody else is staring at the original statement that was sent over that, yeah, you guys promised this 4 months ago. What are you talking about? So then we get an actual official statement that says, okay, we will accept returns for a week and only a maximum of 200 units. What? 1 week after you took 4 months, 200 units, what? And we have to ship it back ourselves. Do you know how expensive it is to ship to China? I checked, it's very expensive. So what is happening here? There is a lot wrong with that statement, but again, my big issue here is the backtracking of the original statement, the deletion of that statement, and the lack of action over 4 months that took it to get to this place because it didn't need to happen. Also, the 200 limit. It's like, you guys think you're NVIDIA? We're going to do like a raffle of just everybody sign up and you might get picked as one of the 200 to return it? What? And then we find out that some of this was dictated by content creator Retro Gamecore after Retroid asked him what should they do. And so they took a suggestion for a limited time return window. And I assume he was just trying to help here. It's the way that I'm going to look at it, but I truly don't think that any content creator should be working this closely with brands and policies. It is not what we should be doing, and not at all what we should be doing in any way, shape, or form with brands. That is my personal opinion. I can't control what others do, but it's not a good look because then you get connected to those brands. So when people come after Retroid for what's going on here, and you are an extension of them now because of statements you're putting out, you're getting pulled into this, and it will affect you as a creator. So you should be, objectively speaking, keeping a very wide distance of not offering these types of advice to brands and companies. And I get that this is from the aspect of trying to help, but it doesn't. However, now we have content creators being more involved with brands and policies than even I have joked about in the past. We have Talkie creating the devices, we have Retro Game Corps handling the customer service, and we have Retro Handhelds handling the surveys and marketing. I sent in my resume, they haven't replied back to me, so I'm not sure exactly what position I'll be in within Retroid, but maybe I'll get an answer soon. That was all a joke. Don't take that too seriously. I thought it was pretty funny, just given how everything has shaked out. But Retroid, a company with a history of hardware issues, the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro display, the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro triggers, the Retroid Pocket Flip hinge, the Retroid Pocket Mini colors, gray colors issue, all of that, somehow didn't know how to handle another one of these issues, and so had to reach out beyond themselves to get an answer. That part is a little bit weird. You have a history of dealing with these sorts of things, so not sure why they needed to get extra help on this scenario. They could have just did what they usually do, which in the past has been pretty good. They've been very good, or mostly good, on handling these types of scenarios. So I'm very confused as to why they need to go outside of the box to get an answer. Lastly, we have Chris, the Retroid social media manager, that got caught up in this as well. He has resigned from Retroid. Turns out one single person on Reddit made a single comment doxing him and whatever information they had there. Let me be clear. This is gross. You should not be doxing anybody. You should not be doing any of that, especially a social media manager. But no, not even gonna say especially. There is no world where you should be doing any of that for any sort of reason. But this is being distracted from the initial issue of what's going on. People are using this as a scapegoat as to why we shouldn't be getting some sort of resolution. This is gross, all of that. There's just no more reason to talk about it. It was one person, one comment. It is stupid. Don't do that. But this shouldn't be used as a distraction against the issue. So we're not going to talk about this again. Just pointing out that no, don't do this. This was not a community effort. It was not a group effort. Do not lump in the entire community with this one single person who made a very stupid decision. So no, but let's move on. Now, otherwise, here we are at the end of the day with multiple different statements, all of them shared on Discord. Once again, if you are not on Discord, you have no way of knowing any of this information unless you watch a video or follow a content creator that is following this. So I don't blame you for not knowing the 4 months of constant asking Retroid what is going on. I don't blame you for not knowing the deletion of statements by Retroid. I don't blame you for not knowing these intricacies, because you wouldn't know it unless it was posted in a video and it was shared along with the timeline of what is exactly going on, because a lot of things do get missed. And again, for me, this is the biggest important part, is that 4-month gap. This isn't about what is happening now. This is about what happened to get to this point, and it's the lack of inaction. Or is it the lack of action? It's so Monday right now. Also, the Mini was for sale throughout this entire 4 months with no disclaimer, no nothing. And I was against the disclaimer a few weeks back because it didn't make sense to me. But now looking back in hindsight, I think I was wrong, because I think if you knew this was an issue, and I think you expected this to go away, which is why you continued selling the Mini as normal, but it really needed to be a big disclaimer or removed from the website, all that sort of thing. And as of today, there is a disclaimer on it. You have to scroll down to see it, and nobody is going to see that. Look, I know nobody's going to see it, because when I leave a pinned comment on a video with an answer to maybe something that I missed in a video or something like that, I still get tons and tons of comments about how do I fix this issue when it's in that pinned comment. So I know people are not going to see it. I know people are going to miss it. So I don't know how that helps. This really should probably just be discontinued at this point. I don't know. There's probably a better solution, but you sold it for 4 months. You knew the problem existed, and you kind of hoped you would get away with it, is the way that I see it. And then today we get another announcement from Retroid. The days have been challenging. Yeah, of course they have. They're working to do refunds. Okay, you can do workarounds. Okay. Guilting consumers with them mortgaging a house for a custom OLED screen. Okay. They'll be making a Mini 2 with a custom OLED screen. Okay, great. But doesn't solve the consumer problem today at all. Oh, you get a discount if you bought a Mini. Oh, okay, got it. All solved. We're all good. And finally, the last part, we are still within the return window and no mention of removing the 200 limit. Now, as far as I can tell, this entire announcement is just advertising a new Mini with a custom screen because there is no words or any confirmation of removing the 200 limit. There is no confirmation of the week return period. There's none of that. It just says continue sending in your emails and we will get to them whenever we can. Okay, but that's not the problem at all. You're not solving this problem at all. All you did here was advertise a new Mini with a new custom OLED screen, which cool, awesome. That is great for the future, but how does that help people today? Don't know. Now look, I am fully a believer that Retroid is trying to do the right thing here. They are just kind of bungling it up every step of the way, and it is hard to continue feeling like they are trying to do good when other things keep changing or happening, like this entire statement. I see a lot of people praising the statement, like it's great. And sure, it is great because it's a statement, but nowhere in the statement does it solve the problem of what people got mad about with the last statement. So I'm kind of confused, unless your takeaway from this is they are removing the 200 cap, which, can you point to that line for me where it says that? Because I don't see it. But anyways, that's why I am a bit confused. We need a bit more information here. So there is a lot to unpack here, and this is going to be a long video, as you can tell. I'm even speaking slowly. I'm not feeling that well today. It is, again, Monday, all this sort of thing. But first and foremost, there is absolutely a hardware issue with the screen. That is fact. You cannot deny that part. So knowing that there is a defect, it is not outputting a clean 1280 by 960p image. That is number one problem. And I don't care if you don't see it. I don't care if you think it's overblown. I don't care if there's a segment of people that aren't bothered by this. There are a number of people that are, and it is a hardware issue. And if it helps you to understand this issue, imagine it was 6 gigabytes of RAM instead of 8 gigabytes of RAM that was delivered. Imagine it was 64 gigabytes of internal storage instead of 128 gigabytes of internal storage. Imagine it was some other hardware issue that affects you specifically for you to care about this issue. Because guess what? It is a hardware issue to a number of people. It is a problem for a number of people. Those people deserve their return or whatever in this scenario. That is what you would expect to happen when a hardware issue is discovered. So if it helps you to imagine a whole different scenario and then put yourself in that place for empathy reasons, then do that. Because guess what? This does not affect me at all. I don't use my Mini, but even if I did, it's not something that I have noticed or it's a problem for me. But that doesn't mean that I'm not here making a whole video about this issue to help people who it does affect. Because the response that Retroid gives on this issue, for this hardware issue, dictates what they're going to do in the future when there's an issue that applies to you. So we should all be caring about how this is handled by Retroid, because guess what? In the future, it might affect you. And at that point, when you want to get others into your camp, we will be in your camp, instead of being like, well, this issue doesn't affect me. I don't even see it. It's overblown. So have some empathy for the people that this does affect. So their initial solution was to investigate, which is great. However, that investigation took 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. And in that time, we had people asking for updates throughout the entire period, not getting any sort of updates, having the social media manager basically tell us that there will be a return period if they can't find a fix. So people are waiting for that to happen. It takes 4 months for that to happen, apparently. And so between the backtracking of statements, between the 4 months, between all of that, you have very angry people that have been waiting and waiting and waiting for some sort of resolution that never came. And even today, there is still kind of no real resolution because the latest statement doesn't backtrack their previous statement. So this is where we're at with the problem and trying to solve this. And look, I know there's a lot of you that are like, well, what do you expect from them? Do you expect everybody to be able to return this? They are making a 200 limit because they can't afford to return all of the Mini units. And look, if I was playing devil's advocate, if I was on the both sides of the fence. I would be like, yes, I agree with you. Retroid obviously probably cannot do returns for every single device. Sure. Back on the consumer side of the fence, why do I care about that? Let's be honest here. Pick another device, another item, another thing. You buy something, it is defective. What is the one thing you're going to do? Are you going to be like, well, you know what? That company, Sony really needs my money. I'm going to eat this defect. I'm not going to care about it. They can take my $60, $70, $100, $400, $500, and hopefully they do well with it. Is there any consumer that is going to do that? Let's be honest, because that is exactly what is happening here. By them saying that they can't do returns for every single mini has this defect. So on the consumer side of things, you're like, well, okay, sure, I get that, but you also did sell me a defective product. So how are you making it good? Am I getting some sort of compensation here? The answer is no. Okay, so if I have to return this device, what is happening then? Well, you're going to pay for returning it. Okay, where is your part in this? Where is your admitting of a fault, a mistake, whatever it is? Because none of that is existing here. All you're telling me here is, we are sorry we sent you a defective item, but please keep it so we can continue staying in business and maybe in the future send you another defective item. That is how I see it as a consumer, because that is how it looks from a consumer perspective. I do not care about your problems with the return. That has nothing to do with me. That is not my problem as a consumer. My problem as a consumer is, I have this device. This device does not work as you intended it to work, as you advertised it to work. So how do you help me? And that is my personal problem with all of these statements, is it is not at all consumer focused. But I guess for 200 of you, you can buy the new NVIDIA 5080. I mean, return the mini, sorry. That's where we're at. Now, there's a lot of you that are like, well, this is the hobby. This is what happens in this hobby. You should be used to it. You should get used to it. It's your fault for buying this device on release. All that sort of thing. And there is nothing more defeatist than those kind of statements, because how does that help us get better? If you are just accepting that, then maybe just stop commenting. Maybe just stop saying anything, because that does not help us get better. It doesn't help them stop doing these things. And look at the Miu A30 and what happened there. Miu A30 launched, it was a disaster. Couldn't even play Super Nintendo games. It was a big problem. And so, naturally so, I lambasted Miu for what they did there. And then everybody else was soft on them. Everybody else got mad at me. You're expecting way too much from a $50 device. All that sort of thing. Guess what happened when they released the Flip? Same thing. The littlest of amount of work they put into that Flip. And now we are here waiting for a version 2 with a better hinge and better software, all these sorts of things. And guess what? If maybe people weren't so defeatist, and maybe they were angry at Miu in that first A30 batch, maybe Miu would learn their lesson for the next release. But because you give them a pass, because we have people, awesome people in this community that fix devices for them, we will not see any sort of forward momentum on these sorts of issues. And it does not matter the price of these devices. It doesn't matter if it's $20 for a data frog that has battery hazard issues or has screen tearing. Doesn't matter if it's a Miu A30 that can't play Super Nintendo at launch, has the front face or the front falling off completely. Doesn't matter if it's an Ambernic H700 device where the screen hertz does not actually become 60 hertz and it's 80 and your games are running faster. Doesn't matter if it's a Retroid Pocket Mini where the display is not actually properly the display. Doesn't matter if it's an MSI Claw 8 at $900 where the actual software is not causing the games to run properly and you have frame time issues because of MSI software. All of these different price points, it does not matter. The one thing that matters and what we should be asking for as consumers is for them to do better, because this defeatist attitude of, well, that is this hobby, that is what we get, is not going to help us. The price points do not matter. I don't care if somebody's like, oh, this is a $200 device. What do you expect? $200 to one person is $50 to another person. So no, the price of the device doesn't matter. I did the MSI Claw 8 video. I showed multiple examples of people affected by the MSI software that makes games not run properly. There's frame time issues, there's rubber banding, all this sort of thing. It is not working properly. The comments that I got in that video is, what do you expect from a launch device? This just came out. It'll get better over time. Comments like this. I'm sorry. Okay. $900 device. For people that want to use price as a factor, $900 device does not work at launch. And the community answer is, what did you expect? This is the problem that I have in this community, this hobby, is we accept these things. We don't fight back against these things. That's why when this happened with Retroid, I was like, we're actually fighting against it. People are actually mad. People are actually, for once, trying to get some sort of answers. That is awesome. This is the first time that I've seen it from the community in ever, I think. Not even the A30, not even the Magic X scenario. Like, this is people actually caring about it. And we can't stop that. We can't stop this for any other company. This isn't a Retroid specific issue at all. I'm going to call it Retroid today because obviously this is what's going on, but Ambernick, Miyu, Powkit, it doesn't matter. All these companies need to be held to a different standard because when you are shipping these devices, it needs to match what you are advertising. Number one, that's the bare minimum, is make sure the specs of what you're delivering is the specs of what you advertised. But number two, the device actually has to work when we get it. And if it does not work, there needs to be a concerted effort on the community's front to be like, why am I buying this thing that does not work? Instead, we kind of say, oh, we'll just wait for a community member to fix it. Gamma will get to it. Rocknix will get to it. ArcOS will fix it. MUS will fix it. All these sorts of things. And those are Band-Aids. Those aren't fixes. I forgot where I was in my whole notes thing. So I gotta go back here. I told you, this is gonna be a long video, and I'm just kind of talking through thoughts as I get there. But I mean, at the end of the day, devices should just work. It's the simplest, easiest way to put this. And Retroid, to get back to Retroid here, Retroid has a history of this scenario. Retroid's QA department is non-existent. The Retroid Pocket 4 Pro was rushed out. If it wasn't rushed out, you would have noticed the green display issue, which ended up being a hardware defect. You would have noticed the triggers, which again ended up being a hardware defect, but neither of those things were noticed. The Retroid Pocket 5 was shipped with alpha software to reviewers, and they used us as a QA department for 3 weeks before releasing it to the public. Now, famously, I did not review the alpha software because why the fuck would I review alpha software as a final review? That goes against everything a reviewer should do. There is no world where you should be reviewing an alpha software as a final product. I don't care who you are. It does not make sense. How does that help the consumer by you reviewing a product that is not final? Because what happened in that scenario is I actually got flacked by the community. Well, why don't you trust Retroid? Why don't you review the Retroid Pocket 5? We're waiting for your review. We want to know what's going on here. And me on the other end being like, well, they didn't send me a finished product to review. This isn't what you are receiving, so why would I review this? As is, this device does not work. So how do I review that for you? Doesn't make sense. But again, this is a history, a consistent problem with Retroid of having no QA department. I would be very surprised if Retroid, or actually most of these companies, even use the device for like a week before sending it out to anybody. Because you would need to use it for a week to see these problems. You would notice these problems within a week. You would notice a green screen issue within the week if you used it. They did not. You would know. I don't know what they expected by sending an alpha software to reviewers. That part does not make sense to me, but like this all is part of the whole rushing of devices out. Take a week, take 2 weeks, send it to friends and family. Find out through that process, is this device good enough to send out? Because that will save you a whole bunch of headache and having to deal with this. But anyways, let's be clear here. Retroid, I feel, is sincere Retroid, I feel, is trying to do the right thing. Retroid, I feel, is bungling up the messaging. So they need to kind of tighten it up a little bit. I know people are probably just going to be happy with this last statement and be like, well, that's it. But reading that statement, I don't see how. There is nothing in that statement that tells me that it's any different than the last statement. There is no updates on that. There's no removal of the 200 limit. The week-long return period is still in effect. All these sorts of things. So if you're happy with that statement, then sure, it just probably means that you aren't one of the people affected, in which case then, okay, thank you for getting us to this point. Thank you for your support. But there are still people that are affected by this issue that maybe haven't gotten the resolution that they wanted. I'm also not offering any sort of solutions or workarounds to Retroid. It is not my place. I do not work for Retroid. I do not want to be associated with any company in that sort of way. That is not my job as a reviewer and not my job as somebody who should be objective in these scenarios. So as a consumer, my thoughts are not what is a good middle ground for Retroid and the consumer. As a consumer, my thoughts are what is a good result for me as a consumer. And currently the answer is the statements are not a good result for the consumer. Anything more than this is just pretending that the company is my friend and out to do good for me. And I don't know about you, but I've seen this time and time again from any company that no, they are not my friend at all. So this whole middle ground scenario of trying to make sure that, hey, Retroid, are you okay? Doesn't sit well with me as a consumer. Now, I do want to point something out. It is an absolute shame that this was not caught during reviews. Every single reviewer missed this, including myself. And look, shaders is the easiest way to see this. Obviously, it does not mean that shaders is the only way, but shaders would be the easiest way to see this. And I am not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I call out everything when I see it and when I find it from any brand. That is why my reviews are so controversial. And no, negative reviews do not do anything better for me as a content creator. Even Steve at Gamers Nexus has said it many, many times that their videos, when they tear down a product, when they have a negative review, do a lot worse than their positive reviews. So I do not gain anything by those reviews. My gain in that is for consumers to let them know about the problems in that product that for some reason get missed, because that is the entire reason I created this channel, was because I was seeing things get missed that need to be told to consumers. So that's where I'm at, but I will miss things, obviously. I missed this. My guides are mostly how to remove shaders, so there was probably no world I would ever seen this, but that's not really an excuse for me. Either way, I'm going to have to look at another way to do reviews or test for this sort of thing in the future. I fully, honestly expected that we have so many content creators that handle shaders and do shader guides, all this sort of thing, that this would be caught by one of them. But the fact that it wasn't by anybody, including myself, means that I need to do a better job on this for consumers, and I'm going to have to look at how to do that. So that is my change going forward for you as viewers and consumers. That is my promise to you, is I'm probably going to try and do better on this front, on what I can do here to make sure this doesn't happen again. The scary thing is, if we did have a Gamers Nexus Steve type person in this community, they would be absolutely blacklisted by every single company. They would get no reviews or no views and all that sort of thing. If you think I am bad for pointing these things out in reviews and having negative reviews, imagine Steve in my position. And I am no competition to Steve in any way, shape, or form, but go look at how hard he went on NVIDIA for their recent lineup of 50 series cards. Put that into our hobby, and you tell me if you think that any company is going to send them anything at this point. From somebody who has been in that way, not getting devices, I can tell you that this is not going to happen for him in our community. So as much as I know there's a lot of people that are like, I want that type of reviewer, and trust me, I would want that type of reviewer too, because that means there would be two of me and a better version of me. We are too immature of a hobby for that type of reviewer currently. It just truth. That's the truth that I can give you. We are not there yet as a hobby. He can do that in his space because NVIDIA, AMD, all of them are not going to be like, we're not going to send it to Gamers Nexus because that would cause a whole other shitstorm. Whereas in this hobby, it's like, well, yeah, who cares if who they send devices to? It doesn't matter. We're not there yet. We will get there at some point, maybe, depending on how this hobby grows. And at that point, we might see something like that. Maybe a hobby or a content creator from this niche will grow to be that type of person. But currently, the way that we are now, it's wishful thinking on the community's part to have a type of reviewer like that. Okay, let's wrap all of this up. My last statement here is, going forward for Retroid and other companies, I think you need to stop pre-ordering. I think you need to wait, let devices get in the hands of normal consumers, see what they say, and then when you get the go-ahead and pre-order. That is the easiest way I can put it. And I get that's a damning statement for me to make as a reviewer, but it's truth at this point, right? Like, how can I sit here and say that reviews matter when it didn't in this scenario? Did not help you, did not save you. So, and I'm sure you could probably point to a lot of other scenarios of other devices where we have missed things as a reviewer. I have missed things as a reviewer. So no more pre-orders. Maybe wait, see what the community says, and then jump in at that point. That is the best way to avoid these issues. That is a band-aid fix. Maybe through that we can get the actual companies to do better, but that is the only way it's going to happen. You have to vote with your wallet. You have to make decisions with your wallet. Otherwise, continue buying the A30, continue buying the Miu Flip, continue showing these companies that it is okay to do these types of things, and we will have this conversation again in a year, in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, because nothing will change if we do not change. So, Retroid, any other company listening or watching, I will try my best to hold you guys accountable, and hopefully others follow me in doing the same thing. Don't forget to like and sub to help the channel grow. Come join me on the Discord to talk all about retro handhelds. Support me on Patreon if you like my stuff. And hope you all have a good one.